Well, that was done the same year, wasn't it?
Yeah, we did it this year.
So what it would do is whatever that resolution is would then fail instead of pass.
The 1801.
Well, whatever the number is on the language, it's still in the southern boundary because that's where we put it and that passed and the attempt to do a referendum on that failed.
The first referendum
So
failed.
it's still in the southern planning area. That resolution fails with that language.
So it doesn't change the boundary of the southern zone or the central zone?
No, it does. The first motion changed the boundary to 600 south. The 650 south. The second 1801 ordinance changed the general plan language to support why that boundary was changed to 650 south. That's what this latest referendum is.
Okay, so if that doesn't get approved, that language, it
doesn't reverse the first motion.
So the boundary's there.
The
Boundary's there.
The subject property is still in the southern, not the central anymore.
Right.
That change takes effect.
That took effect.
It's already there. The line on the map is where we changed it to.
Yeah.
So that, I guess that's the question. Do we then come back with a different resolution with language to support the boundary?
Is it, or I guess the question is it a requirement that we pass a resolution with justification? Is that what the resolution was for?
The resolution was to overturn that language. So, like I said, I'm not sure if we can go back and change that language somewhat and adopt it. I don't.
So what you're asking is, can you undo your motion and do a new motion with different language?
No. I'm not.
No, the question that I'm driving at, and we don't discuss, is that regardless of what happens with ballot initiative, whether it passes or fails, does that change the boundary of the property? So if not, then a 5A or RA5 zone is appropriate, regardless of what happens to the ballot initiative. Does that make sense?
I should say the RA5 zoning is supported by the southern planning area, whereas in the central planning area it's not. So boundaries changed, the southern planning area would support an RA5 zone.
And that's where it is currently.
Anybody know what the language on the petition was?
Yeah.
You
I
have
got
it
it right here. We, the undersigned citizens of Utah, respectively order that the boundary change in the general plan with a finite boundary description in it separating the central from southern planning area with all the conclusions and findings of the Planning Commission passed on May 16, 2018. That'd be,
That's the old.
no,
That would be the boundary.
that'd be,
That's the boundary. This one was the language. That's the old one in May.
no, this is the one they just turned in.
Tracy,
That one was already passed. That one was already past the deadline.
No, this is the new one, this is the one they turned in.
You can't change the boundary if the boundary change was already done. That's the first one they ran that they didn't get enough signatures on.
No, this is
Can
the
I-
current one.
Please.
Ask, I'm sorry I was late. I didn't realize you opened the door. But I didn't hear the very beginning of the discussion. But on the February petition, the first one, I believe, I'm not an attorney and I don't have one with me, you were supposed to attach an ordinance number to that first boundary move in January that you did. Because after we started the petition, it was put on your agenda in like March or April with a resolution number. And you had to table it because there was already a petition out. That petition needed to have an ordinance number on it, and you guys never passed an ordinance number with that first resolution January. So I'm questioning whether that first resolution well, it wasn't a resolution. The first motion you made in January was even valid because you didn't have an ordinance number with it. And I think you might have realized that in March or April, because when you put it on the agenda to table it until the first petition was over, there was an ordinance number on there. And I was questioning that, going, what's that ordinance number? And it was the boundary move to 650 South. But that was not in your January meeting when you first made that motion. There was no ordinance number attached. So I'm questioning whether that first decision in January is even valid without an ordinance number attached to that motion in January. And I think that needs to get straightened out first before you guys decide where the boundary is now. I don't think that first petition was even valid anyway, because there was no ordinance with that petition that we filed, because you guys never filed an ordinance number.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Probst.
Yeah, it was actually filed, and it's actually recorded at the county. In January, when she's saying, or when Tracy's saying this, you guys did a first reading. And it come back
January 17th.
and it come back in February, and you guys approved it and basically adopted it, and then that's when it was recorded.
Thank you.
Now, regarding the petitions, I have no idea what either one of them said.
On January 17th, we had the general plan to move the boundary. That passed. There's no ordinance number with it. On February 7th, we had it on the agenda for the rezone, which we didn't do because we hadn't, due to a referendum application has been received, staff recommends that the item be continued until the outcome of the referendum is determined. So in February 7th, they had turned in the referendum. Then item number 3 on the agenda is discussion and possible motion on ordinance 1801. The ordinance amends chapter 4 of the Wasatch County General Plan entitled Land Use. The amendments are more specifically for the central planning area by adding language on page 168 and the southern planning area adding language to 192. That's in the general plan, I'm assuming, right? The additions provide for language to establish a boundary between the central planning area and the southern planning area. So that, when we dealt with it in February 7th, they had an ordinance number 1801.
But we had already filed the petition.
That was for the boundary line.
No,
Okay.
that was for the language in the general plan, updating the language.
Well, it doesn't.
Yeah, those
Yeah,
page
the
numbers.
language, yes, correct. Due to a referendum application has been received, staff recommends that the item be continued indefinitely, the outcome. So that was in February.
And I've got the same referendum language that you just read, Councilmember Crittenden,
For the,
for the
First
second
one.
referendum. And
this is for the second, this is
yeah,
the
that's
second
what I'm saying.
referendum.
That's the language I've got.
So I think it's obvious that we don't know if the boundary line has been done or not, because from every discussion I've had with everybody is the boundary was moved and done. And the referendum was on the language that supported it.
Second referendum was on
Yeah.
the language supported.
No, the only referendum that we've received, and by the way, the clerk's office did certify that they did have enough signatures for that thing to be on the ballot.
So we
So,
had 2 referendums, the one failed.
okay, we only have one that the clerk certified that is going to the ballot, correct? That's the one I'm talking about.
That's it.
That's on the language that supports it. It's already been moved to the other planning area.
And I don't recall.
Well, I understand
Yeah.
what her opinion
No,
is,
I'm
and
saying what if Mr.
we
Brooks
certainly need
says-
to get our attorney's opinion on that, at least I think, before we take action on this item. But that's just my opinion. So if we have a motion to continue this until which time the attorney can give us his opinion on this, I think that's the direction I want to go, even if it's only a week or 2 from now. And then,
So many.
okay, a motion by Mr. Good, second by
Are you going to
Mr.
give it a date certain?
Well, it was.
I think we should, and then that way we've got it, and we don't have to spend the money to re-advertise, and it's now, maybe, third week? Let's do 3rd week of August,
All right, my
just
motion.
because first one's gonna be 3rd week of August, from August 15th.
Second regular meeting of August, and then put that in.
Yes, yes, that way you're covered, yes. Mr. Peterson, your second still stands. Okay, any further discussion from the council? Mr. Probst.
So I guess I'm confused. It's like, and
I think we are too.
Maybe you guys are too.
At least I am.
Okay, so does anybody know what it was on the referendum petition? Are we still, is that what we're doing?
He just read it, but our understanding was that boundary line was already moved.
And so you guys are gonna wait and get,
We've got to get Scott's opinion on where we stand before we vote on a rezone, or whether we wait till after the petition to rezone, or if we need to.
okay. And see, that's when I talked to Doug earlier, or last week, and told him that really we don't need to vote on, we don't need to wait for any petition for this, because it only affects the general plan to vote on the rezone. I mean, that was
That's
just
certainly an opinion of some of us, is we may not need the general plan language as long as it's in the right plan.
We don't.
But others would disagree.
We've delayed this 18 months because of us trying to work with planning to change the general plan to make it more supportive. But I think at this point, I think you're either in support of it or you're not. It really has nothing to do with the general plan amendment. Language, or whatever it was.
That would certainly be the opinion of some. Thank you. Okay. Ms. Taylor.
Can I just suggest that whomever, when you guys hear back from the county attorney, that you notify Justin Crail, who filed the actual petitions, and that he is notified of what the decision is, so that because he's not even here today.
On the third meeting to discuss and either vote or not.
Right, but I think there should be some
Notification in this meeting. I'm certain it'll be on our agenda. That's on the state website and publicly noticed, excuse me. So I'm sure you're pretty interested in when it will be. That's why we're doing it to a date certain, at least in my opinion, so everyone knows when to be here, when it will be discussed, and we could potentially take action. Is that okay, or? I'm sure we can let the clerk's office can let him know that it's certified.
What is your question? I don't understand what you're
I don't either.
Well, no, you are going to hear back from the county attorney on what that first petition was and how that happened and what you guys voted on and what the petition was about. I mean, that's where the confusion is. It's not this second petition. It's the first petition. It's the first petition.
It's the whole thing.
So that's all I'm saying, is that once there is a decision made by the county attorney, it would be nice to notify the people who actually filed the petition and communicate with them the findings so that they can be prepared for the meeting when it comes up. I mean, just like we're discussing it now. None of us knew this was going to even be discussed today, so we're grappling at facts.
It's absolutely should be.
No, I know, but that's...
Petition and voted on.
But,
What's his name? Justin Crail?
yeah.
Justin, we're going to have a meeting where we discuss this on the second regular meeting of August. Please attend.
Okay, okay. It's not a public hearing. Thank you for your comment. We're going to move on. We haven't, I forgot to make the motion second. Sorry. Maybe we should have just voted on it. We have the motion by Mr. Good, second by Mr. Peterson. Any further discussion on this motion from the council?
August 15th, correct?
August 15th. It is the second regular meeting.
Which would be August 15th.
Unless we change it, it'll be the second regular meeting and it'll be noticed properly.
Wait, could you just repeat what that motion was, please? This is what you said for the motion. Would you mind repeating the motion, the language of the motion that you just
Okay,
made?
so I said something based on what you said, but we're continuing item 4 until the second regular meeting of August, pending information or a legal opinion from the county attorney's office regarding the boundary move, the legality of RA5 versus RH20, where the property in question, Mr. Pope's property, physically is located.
The boundary move in January.
Wait, so are you saying you don't know for sure whether the property is in the RA5?
We think we do, and the referendum language isn't contradictory, so we're going to get some clarification.
Clear, I've asked all these questions because I want to understand, regardless of what happens on the ballot, does it stay the same or does it move? Okay, if it moves based on the decision the council made earlier, then that means that Mr. Pope's property can be RA5.
If it moves, but that's what the referendum was about.
They were discussing it while you were out in the hallway.
All right, I'm
We're
sorry.
just trying to review it to make sure.
We're erring on the side of caution once again.
And I am, because I think I made a mistake on the vote. As clear as that. I think that he had the legal right and I voted against it because I didn't like the general plan change. But once he had the legal right, I feel like I should have changed my vote. I should have made the vote that he could go from 20 to 5. And that's why I think the open space initiative is so important, because people should put their money where their mouth is.
So the motion's clear. Second still stands. We'll proceed to vote. Mr. Farrell?
I'm going to vote no, because I think we drug this out long enough, and I think it was clear.
I'm going to vote yes to err on the side of caution.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you.